Windows 7 afterwards, or maybe you had to reinstall Windows 7 or XP or Vista, or maybe you did something that modified the master boot record, or it was damaged in some way, and so now you can't access GRUB 2 for one reason or another. The way to fix it, all you need is your Ubuntu Live CD. So you can download the ISO from ubuntu.com. And you can use the CD. One of my favorite methods is I do everything on a flash drive. And if you go to pendrivelinux.com, there are lots of tools you can use to create multi-boot flash drives. And I have a 32 gigabyte flash drive, and I have images of Ubuntu and images of Windows 7 and XP on it, as well as like password recovery tools and disk partitioning and Clonezilla tools and things like that. So lots of wonderful free tools. I'll put in a plug for that website. But anyway, whether you choose to use a live CD or a flash drive, put that in and boot up off of that. And you'll see the default Ubuntu install screen, so you can either try Ubuntu without installing if you want to boot up off in the live CD mode. And it doesn't matter if you set up the flash drive, you can do like a Casper file and make it persistent. I do that. That way I can install things on my flash drive and boot up on other people's computers and have all of my software and things. But whatever you decide, you don't really need all those fancy tools for this. You just want to be able to boot up off the live CD. So rather than install Ubuntu, I'm just going to say try Ubuntu without installing, and I'll boot up into that live CD mode. Good grief, that was really chatty, wasn't it? I've had lots of coffee this morning and I'm feeling really talkative. It's a beautiful day. It's the wonderful month of December. Happy holidays. So we're booting up here. Maybe I'll kind of cut out and come back in to save some time on this video. So now I've booted at my default Ubuntu Live installation screen. And what I'll need to do is look at my local file system. And everything here is on the image itself. It's not actually on my hard drive. So if I were to try to install GRUB at this point, it would try to do it on the live image, and that's not what we want. What we want to do is do it on the hard drive. So the first thing I need to do is figure out where my Linux partitions are on the hard drive. And of course, we'll need some root privileges, and we can use the fdisk command with the -L option. Oops, -L, not =L. Okay, and then notice here's my file system. So right here, this HFS, this is my my leopard partition for Snow Leopard, my little Hackintosh. And then these two partitions here, NTFS, it's a system and an operating system partition for Windows 7. And then down here, I have an extended and some logical drives. And in this case, here is my native Linux partition. This is where actually my Ubuntu 10.10 Maverick Meerkat is installed. And this, of course, is my swap partition. So I'm only interested in the Type 83, the Linux. And really all I'm interested in knowing is what's the partition number. So I know it's the 5th partition. And by the way, this changed from GRUB Legacy to GRUB 2. In GRUB Legacy, these would have been indexed, you'd start at 0. And so that would actually have been 4. But in GRUB 2, they start at 1. So in this case, that's SDA 5. Now the devices themselves start at 0, but the partitions will start at 1 this time. So my 5th partition, SDA 5, and I just need to know this information right here. And, is that large enough? Maybe I can zoom in a little bit, and that will be bigger. How's that? Is that bigger? Okay. So now that I know that, I have that useful piece of information, I need to mount that. Again, if I look at my mounted file system, it's deceptive because if I were to go, let's say I were to go to root here, okay? I'm going to clear the screen, and if I were to look at root, okay, it might look like I'm on my hard drive, but I'm not. This is the actual root of the embedded, the image that I booted up off of, the ISO on my flash drive. Or if you used a Ubuntu Live CD, the image on the CD itself. So it's a read-only copy. I can't write to it, and I don't want to write to it. I want to reinstall GRUB on my hard drive on my system, not on the Live CD itself. Even if I could, which I can't. But so what I need to do is I need to mount some things from that hard drive using the mount command. And so remember, I know that it's SD5, so I'm going to go sudo. I'm going to use the mount command. And the first thing I want to do is I need to mount DEV SDA5. That's the actual device where my, that's the partition where my Linux is installed, and I'm going to mount it to the mount folder itself. Right, and remember when you do that, I'll use the mount command just to show you what that looks like now. So see now, even though I booted up off of my flash drive, off the live CD image, I've taken the partition on my hard drive, the fifth one that Linux is installed on, the Type 83, and I've mounted it to the mount folder as read-writable, ext4. So now I can actually have some effect on it or do something to it. So that was the first step. Again, I mounted the dev SDA5 to mount. And now the next thing I want to do, again, several mount commands we need to issue here so that we can take our hard drive file system and affect it by the live CD image or by typing commands in this image. So with that mounted, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to mount the same one, DVSDA5, and I'm going to go to mount boot, okay, in this case. And next I'm going to do sudo mount. And the next command, I'm going to do sudo mount and bind. And in this case, the device folder, and I'm going to take and put that into mount dev. Okay. Alright, so sudo mount bind dev mount dev. And then I'm going to use the chroot command. And we talked about this before when creating a chroot shell, but remember, chroot temporarily changes the root of the file system. I'm at root now if I print working directory, but I'm going to temporarily change root, relatively speaking, to another directory with the chroot command. And of course I'll need root privileges for that. A lot of root going on here. So sudo chroot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to temporarily make the folder of the live image mount root. For all intents and purposes. So now it looks like I'm in root, if I print the working directory, but really I'm in root/mount on the live image. And if I do that, remember I mounted all those things to that folder. So look at all of these folders here. Now I can actually affect in this folder. This is actually my hard drive. I've mounted the images of my hard drive into this folder. So now I'm no longer looking at the root of the live image. Now I'm looking at the root of my hard drive and partition 5, my Type 83 Linux ext4 partition. Okay? Okay. So let's go ahead and, the command we can do now is we want to do sudo and grub install. And so I'm just going to do grub install. And I'm going to use dev SDA because I only have, this is a laptop system here, and I only have one hard drive. If you had more than one, that might be STB or STC or whatever it was, but we know from using fdisk it was SDA. The partition doesn't matter. All you want is the hard drive. So I don't need to do like SDA 5 or 4 or 3 or anything, even though SDA 5 is my partition. I just need the device, SDA. Okay, and there goes my cuckoo clock. So sudo grub install dev SDA because I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter and reinstall. Installation finished. No error reported. Yay! In this case, now I'm, again, if I were to print my working directory, it tells me I'm at the root level. But remember we use chroot. So I want to get out of that. I'm just going to type exit, and I will leave that. Okay, and now if I print my working directory, I'm at root, but I'm looking at the root of the image itself per se. This is the live image and no longer the root part of, of my hard drive, what I've mounted. And I need to unmount things accordingly. I don't want to, reboot yet without cleanly unmounting all the things that I mounted. Otherwise, I'd have to end up running ffck, and that wouldn't necessarily ruin my day, but it could complicate things before I reboot. So I just want to unmount what I mounted. And in order to do that, I'll use the umount command. Of course, I'll need some root privileges. And I'm going to sudo umount, and I'm just going to do mount dev, and that'll unmount mount DEV, and from the mount folder, a lot of mounting going on. And the next one I want to do, let me do mount boot, and I'll unmount that from the mount folder. And then the next one I want to do, I'm going to unmount the mount folder itself, so to speak. Okay, and I've unmounted all those things, and now I can actually reboot from my live CD. So I'm going to do sudo reboot and pull my flash drive out, or if you didn't use a flash drive, pull out your Ubuntu Live CD and get ready to go back to using your GRUB 2 on your hard drive. Okay, and we've rebooted, and now here's our GRUB 2 menu fully restored. And again, on a triple boot system, our inexpensive